Newsmax host Grant Stinchfield went full anti-Semitic during a segment discussing the Israeli attacks on Gaza. Take a look.
Well, he talks about moral courage. It is something, sadly, that Democrats do not have. And I would ask you, if you are Jewish and you are a Democrat and you are living in America today, how do you support an administration that turns its back on your home country? I do not understand it. Israel is our one true ally in the Middle East. Without it, we would be devastating.
Wait, okay, home country. What are you talking about? If they're American Jews, then they're just Americans. Their home is America. That is their home country, America. I mean, come on. Okay, so what this is full mask off. And here's the problem, okay? So the problem with this is that this is one anti-Semitic trope. One of them used by Nazis is that Jewish people have a dual loyalty to, when they're not in Israel, they have a dual loyalty to Israel and the country that they live in, and that they will put their loyalty to Israel above everything else. So again, that is a very, very old, long-standing anti-Semitic trope that has been used to discriminate against Jewish people, to, for one, justify removing them from political positions of power, and also justify removing them from countries altogether. Well, you're not really you're not really a citizen of our country. No, you're a citizen of Israel. So we're going to use that justification to literally remove you from your home. And so that is something that has happened through our history. Okay. And so that's pretty fucked. And again, this is what the evangelical right, the far right, thinks about Jewish people. If you look into the history of how this has been used against these populations in different countries, I mean, it really is incredibly horrifying. So now you might wonder too, but wait, if the far right doesn't like Jewish people, like you're saying, well, then why do they support Israel? Why do they support the strikes into Gaza? Well, for one, they hate Muslims. Like the far right hates Muslims. And that includes the far right, by the way, in Israel. And I think it's been pretty well documented how much they despise people who are Muslim, the far right. But again, there's more to it, okay? For one, they also support Israel because it's essentially an ethno-religious state at this point. It's an apartheid state that, practices apartheid against people who are not Jewish. And so what they've done is that they've used their police state to crack down and build illegal settlements in their areas. Again, in Palestinian areas, again, you've had the United Nations basically saying these are illegal settlements. What's going on? Now, how this applies to the far right is that you've seen a lot of members of the far right that would love to turn America into a similar type of ethno-religious state under fundamentalist Christianity. And so they have that thing in common. Okay. But the other reason why you have these evangelicals, why you have many in the far right that support Israel, it's not because they actually care about the Israeli people or their safety. It actually, in reality, they want all the Jewish people to go back to Israel so that God can kick off the end times, the apocalypse, where Jesus can then, after that happens, hoover up a certain amount of people off into heaven with this giant vacuum cleaner. Okay. That's what it is. And so that's kind of what this is all about on the far right. And that's why you can also have a movement that is deeply, deeply anti-Semitic, but also be in favor of the right-wing government of Israel and what they're doing to the Palestinians. And so that said, he says what he basically said there is you can't be Jewish and American at the same time. Now, that's obviously 100% wrong. But he says, no. Israel's your home country. And why would you, living in America as an American Jew, why would you be against or for an administration that is against your home country? Well, again, as a lot of people are going to tell you, I'm not Jewish. I can't speak for Jewish people, which is why I'm going to quote some Jewish people on social media who disagree with that assessment from Mr. Stinchfield. In fact, here's one. Josh Marshall, writing for Talking Points Memo, says, Jew here, care deeply about Israel. My wife was born there. Israel isn't my home country. 100% American. America. Hell yeah. All right. Alex Basson says, I'm Jewish, was born and raised in Wisconsin. I've lived in Illinois and Missouri, and I'm living today in New York. Never been to Israel. Israel isn't my home country. Another person, my home country is the United States. I was born here. My parents were born here. 3 of my 4 grandparents were born here. The administration that turned its back on my home country left office January 2021. True. Joyous Panther says, I'm Jewish. Never stepped foot in Israel. Not my home country. Another person, my home country is America. Just because I'm Jewish does not make my home country Israel. I have never been there, have no relatives there. My family came from Poland and Russia. So nope, not all Jews are Israeli. So now there's also some interesting polling coming out from American Jews. Many of them, of course, are quite progressive and are not impressed with right-wing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. In fact, according to polling from the Jewish Telegraph Agency, most American Jews rated Netanyahu's leadership only fair or poor, while less than half of them said that he was excellent or good. Netanyahu was rated highest by Jewish Republicans and Orthodox respondents, so people who are more religious fundamentalist, and was given the worst ratings from respondents under 30, unaffiliated Jews, and Democrats. Only 25% of Democrats said he was excellent or good. Nearly 2/3 of American Jews are actually optimistic, though, that Israel can find a way to coexist peacefully with the Palestinian state, so two-state solution. Israelis, by contrast, consistently are pessimistic that a two-state solution will happen. Only 1/3 of American Jews, however, believe that Israel is sincere about making peace with the Palestinians, and the number drops to 24% among Jews under 30 and to 20% among Jewish Democrats. However, according to polling, every segment of the Jewish population does believe Israel is more sincere about peace than the Palestinians. I would say that the right-wing government of Israel, so Netanyahu, the ultra-right wing, well, they like the conflict because they can use that to stay into power. Again, Netanyahu could not form a coalition government, and that's when this began. So his failure to create a coalition government, I think, and this is my personal opinion, since he does want to stay into power and, be able to form his another government and stay in the position of prime minister, might have did a little engineering of a crisis. And so that's it. Again, my personal opinion on that. I don't have anything to back that up. But again, when it comes to right wingers, they love to use fear. They love to use war. And of course, you've got the fear of terrorism over there. You do have Hamas, which, will take advantage of any situation to cause chaos because they are a terrible group. They are a terrorist group. And so, yeah, take advantage of that situation. Try to remain in power, especially to cover up for corruption charges and, and to, of course, stay into power. So that's what we have going on. Again, in my opinion, I do think that, yeah, most people do want a peaceful solution to this. I want a peaceful solution to this. I want a solution to where you have the Palestinian people no longer living in open air prisons that have human rights, that have the rights to trade, that have the rights of commerce and to kind of, decide their own political representation and destiny. But that's just me. Now, let's see. More finding from Pew Research. Now, they also note that American Jews are becoming more diverse, as well as being more polarized between Orthodox and non, more educated and affluent, and are more worried than any time recently about the rise of anti-Semitism in the United States. And with segments like this from Newsmax, well, and the rise of neo-Nazi movements under the Trump administration, Proud Boys, I don't really blame them. It's actually super gross to bring up these old anti-Semitic tropes towards our fellow Americans who are absolutely American. And so you need to stop with that. Just stop. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.